Well, I figure since I'm tying up a bunch of these anyway, I might as well do a tying video. So right now I'm tying my Radioactive Muddler minnow, which is a fairly simple pattern. It only uses 3 materials, and it is a killer. Trout, bass, pickerel, anything. So I'm using a large tungsten cone head and a Gamakatsu B10S stinger hook and UTC Ultra Thread 210 olive. It really doesn't matter what color you use, but I use olive. Just any natural mute color will work fine. I'm going to take a clump of brown marabou, about the length of the hook shank to the barb, and tie it in as the tail. And then I'm going to wrap all the way back to the cone head to build some bulk before clipping. Now I'm going to take Ice Dub UV Shrimp Pink. Get a good sized clump. You could do a dubbing loop if you so chose, but I like to keep it on there fairly tight. I don't like the fibers to pull out like some streamer patterns. Always put a little more than you need. I try to do that. And wrap in right to the cone head. Take another clump of marabou. I try to get one that's a little more sparse. There's a good one. Tie it into the same length as the tail, right at the cone head. Take another pinch of pink Ice Dub. You're going to make sort of an overwing with this. Make sure you get out all the excess fibers by pinching in the middle and pulling them out. And then right in the middle of the clump, tie it in over top of your marabou wing. And then now there's a decent gap here where there's just thread. You're gonna, since I'm using Ultra Thread, which is already waxed, it's gonna be very slippery on the hook. I want you to just push it into the cone head so there's less room there. Because we're only tying in 1 clump of deer hair on this since we're using a cone head. If you chose to tie this without a cone head or a bead head, you get away with leaving a good gap there, but with a cone head I like to leave almost only the tips of the hair showing. I took a big clump of deer hair, natural. You don't need to stack it perfectly. In fact, I prefer there to be some difference in the length of fibers. I think it gives a little bit more natural look to it. You want about twice the length of the cone head. With your thumb and index finger, spread it out evenly along the hook. Grab it with your other hand. 2 wraps of thread, pull tight. You'll leave most of the clump at the top and not as much at the bottom, which I prefer because I think that gives a little bit more exposure to the hook point. Since I'm not trying to imitate a sculpin, this is more of a bait fish pattern. I think it works fine that way. Whip finish. Oh, see, since I'm using that denier, it's gonna or the UTC, it's going to do that. It's going to pull down whenever I whip finish. But whenever you put your head cement on there, it'll harden it down and it'll prevent that from happening. Just twist it back to where it was. Push in again tightly so that the body all pushes into the cone head. That'll make it more secure. And then you can just trim away with the scissors, or if you so choose a razor blade, right flat at the cone head. It doesn't need to be perfect, obviously. Just try not to clip too much of the tips off. A bit of extra thread poking out there. And there you have it. That would be my Radioactive Muddler minnow. It's honestly one of my most productive streamer patterns.